Hi, I'm Arden Compton. I want to share some ideas with you about how the ego limits the joy that we have in life and keeps us from really being at peace in the present. How I define the ego is our separate self, okay? Our body, what our physical senses can tell us, our thoughts. The ego says, this is who I am, okay? And this is a very limiting perception. It defines this as a separate self rather than having connection to everyone else. And the truth is, we are all interconnected. But this illusion of a separate self must be maintained. And how we define ourselves as a separate self, what makes us separate from each other? There are a number of things that can make us separate from each other. And I wrote a list here, just so I wouldn't forget. So whatever it is I think defines me, the ego says I need more of it. It's never satisfied for long. It's like an itch that you got to scratch, and you think you got it, but then pretty soon it's there again, and okay, well, no, it's itching again, and it just never seems to be satisfied for long, if at all. It's like the elusive pot of gold under the rainbow. It's just over there, and it says we're not there yet. We need a little bit more or a lot more, and then we'll be there. But the rainbow, if you've ever tried to get to the end of a rainbow, there's been a few times in my life when oh, look, I can see it's in this neighborhood, is right, 2 blocks over, I can see it's right over there. But if you drive 2 blocks over, it's not there. It's either another 2 blocks over, or it went behind you the other way, or it's somewhere else. But it's never where you are. And that's how the ego enslaves us. It keeps us chasing something. Okay? So, whatever it is we're chasing, the ego says we need more of it. And it doesn't matter what we have, that's not enough yet. Even if it's enough for okay, maybe it's enough for a small window of time, maybe a day or a week or a year, but then it's going to say, no, and it becomes restless, and it pushes us to seek for more. So the ego says, first of all, I am my thoughts. Now, this is one of the hardest ones to separate ourselves from. We assume we are our thoughts. If somebody disagrees with our opinion, we feel like they're disagreeing with us because I am my thoughts. But I am the observer of my thoughts. I'm aware of my thoughts. I had a client say to me one day, as we were chatting about a challenge he had in his life, and he had done something that he knew he shouldn't have done, and he regretted having done it. And I was asking him what had happened, and he said, well, I guess I let my thoughts get away from me. Think about that. He let his thoughts get away from him. So let's just say, I happen to have a pen here, okay? This pen is an object. And if this pen, just allow your mind to go with this, okay? This pen represents a thought. I can look at a thought. I can observe a thought. I can watch the thought get away from me, or I can rein in a thought. I can control a thought or not control a thought. I can change a thought. I can agree with a thought. I can disagree with a thought. I can say that's a good thought, or I can say that's a bad thought. That's a dirty thought. That's a selfish thought. That's a righteous thought. We can label it any number of ways, but it's not who we are. It's something we can manage, kind of like I'm not my shirt, obviously. The shirt I'm wearing today, I won't be wearing tomorrow. Not likely anyway. I guess I could wash it and wear it again. But just like we can change our shirt, we can change our mind. We can change our thought. We're not the thought. We're the manager of the thought. There are some thoughts that arise from something else. What are we really? We're a divine soul. We are a part of divinity. There's something within us that's much more than this. The divine within us existed before our physical and our brain, and it will exist. I've watched many accounts of people who have had out-of-body, near-death experiences where they die on the operating table or in a car accident or something traumatic happens and their spirit leaves their body, and they observe their body and they look at it and they're like, huh. And sometimes they don't even recognize their own body. They're like, wow, I'm over here, my body's over there. I'm not the body. Same thing with the thought. I'm not the thought. I'm the observer of the thought. And when we can be still enough in our mind, quiet the constant chatter in the brain, and just be aware of our thoughts, observe our thoughts, it helps us to let go of what I would say our ego, because the ego is very identified by our thoughts and by our body. And so again, the ego says we need more. If you're thinking about something, it says keep thinking about it. It wants the thinking to never stop. The chatter just never stops. And it wants us to keep thinking more and more. If we look at our body, we say, I am my body. Then the ego wants more. More what? Well, if you're into fitness, the ego says you need more fitness. If you're sick, now this is pretty twisted, but this is what happens. The ego says, I need more sickness. I need more pain. If we identify ourselves by our pain or our sickness, we say, I am sick. We define ourselves. I have a bad back, or we define ourselves. I've got allergies, and I'm not criticizing people that have these challenges. Of course, we all have different challenges, but we don't want them to define us. But once we accept them as a part of who we are, then our ego twisted nature says, okay, let's keep it and let's get more of it. Even if it's something we don't want. The ego demands that we are right. But right about what? If I believe sickness, I'll just say a back pain. If I believe a back pain is a part of now my ego identity, then I need to be right that the back pain is a part of who I am. And so I now need the back pain to maintain my identity. When I was growing up, I fell for the false identity of I am stupid. And once I made that a part of my identity, my ego false identity, then the ego said, okay, I'm going to prove I'm right about the idea that I'm stupid. So it doesn't mean I'm going to be right on my test at school. It means I'm going to fail the test at school to prove I'm right about being stupid. It's very counterintuitive and it's very sabotaging, because the ego will demand I'm right, even if it's a totally preposterous idea that logically we know shouldn't be there. But once it's part of the ego identity, the ego will say, I need more, and I got to prove that that is the truth about me, the truth about life, the truth about relationships, the truth about God, whatever it may be. It's going to keep fighting to prove that whatever it bought into is actually right. And so we need to let go of the illusion of the ego that, again, that we're our thoughts, or that we are our body, or that we are our track record. Let me look at my list again here. The ego says, I am my body, my thoughts, the way I feel. How often do we define ourselves by the way I feel? We use the terms I am are defining words, how we define ourselves. And a person will say, I am anxious. And that feeling becomes a part of their false identity. I am anxious. And if the ego buys into that, then I need more of it to be who I am, because the ego thinks anxiousness is just the way I am. But it doesn't have to be. And so the ego says, I am the way I feel, whether it's anxiety, whether it's sadness, whatever. We could make a long list of different emotional possibilities that people lock into. I am stuck. There's all kinds of emotions that we define ourselves by. And so the ego says, I am my emotions. I am my reputations. I am my reputation. What other people think of me defines me. I am my failures. My track record defines me. Or my success defines me. It can go either way. Ego doesn't care if it buys into something that's positive or negative. I can allow my success to define me, or I can allow my failures to define me, or probably a combination of both. Okay, but neither of those should define us. What defines us? Our connection to divinity. That's who we really, really are. In the New Testament, Jesus shared a parable. He said, I am the vine and you are the branch. And a vine, just for translation, I think of a trunk, like if this is a tree trunk, okay? And a branch coming, if this is the branches, and a branch coming off of the tree trunk, okay? He's saying he's the trunk, we're the branch. Christ is the divine. What is the relationship between a trunk and a branch? Well, it's a very tight relationship. They're intertwined. They're a part of the same greater whole. If it's an apple tree, which is more apple, the trunk or the branch? I know the apples show up on the branch, not the trunk, but it's all part of the same organism, so to speak. We're all part of a greater divine whole. And as we see our connection to that and allow ourselves to be at peace with that, then we can let go of neediness. The ego is in a constant state of needing more success or more failure, more pain or more pleasure. It just wants more, and it's not satisfied with what is. It gets that itch because it says I'm incomplete. It says I'm not a part of a divine whole. I am separate in my own little box. This is me, and everybody else is somewhere else. Does that make sense? I hope so. You can't answer on the video. So other things, just to be aware of. This is very subtle and it's very pervasive. And we've all got it in somewhere in our system. So, I'm the way I feel. I am my possessions. Okay, that could be my money, my car, my house, my stuff. We want something possession-wise in this scenario. If I am my possessions, I want something impressive. Something that makes me look good. Something that proves to others, hey, I'm okay. Wow, look at what he's driving, or look at the house he's in, or look at that suit, or look at that watch, or look at something that he's got, or look at something I've got, and wow, you better be impressed. That's the ego at work saying, I am my possession, I am my money, something external that I've added to me because I thought I was incomplete. But I'm not incomplete. I'm part of this greater divine whole, as you could say, as a child of God, as a piece of divinity. There's a number of ways that you could phrase it, but it's got to come back down to something divine. Because if we're only this, then this is just never enough. No matter how good we are, no matter if we're a world champion at something, eventually we're not the world champion at it anymore. Eventually somebody else is the world champion. It's always going to be a struggle to keep ourselves number one. And the ego says, I've got to be number one. And again, whether it's number one in pain or number one in success. How many people do you know that almost take pride in telling you about their pain? Telling you about their misfortune of whatever it is. So on my possessions, my reputation, my failures, my accomplishments, my money, my clothes, my car, my hobbies. Okay, how many times do we define ourselves by our hobbies or our abilities? You know, I'm a person that, you can say, I love to go hiking. That's me. I'm the person that hikes. I'm in nature. So then I need more nature, more hiking, more of whatever that is. I am my profession. This is very common. A person will label themselves by their profession. I'm a doctor. I'm a plumber. I'm a lawyer. I'm a gardener. This becomes a part of how they define themselves. I am my rejections. Again, that goes back to the idea of my reputation. And we allow the rejection of somebody else to be a label that sticks on us. When people reject us or judge us, condemn us as being not okay in some way, bad or twisted or untrustworthy or deviant in some way, and we're afraid that's the truth of who we are. And then the ego says, okay, then we need to be, if it's untrustworthy, then we're going to prove we're more untrustworthy. And we do more things that make people say he's not trustworthy. And it can really sabotage us. But the same thing, it can backflip on us. Backflip's the right word. Okay. I am somebody that's trustworthy. Okay. Then I got to be more trustworthy, and I got to prove I'm trustworthy, and I got to be the most trustworthy person, and I got to prove I'm the most trustworthy person in the room. And the ego launches us off on a chase going that way. I'm the most trustworthy, or I'm the most righteous, or the most spiritual, or I'm the goodest person. Whatever word you want to throw in there. It doesn't care if it sends us on a chase down or a chase up. It wants us to be on a chase for something more than what is. What is never enough for long. I'm a part of the group I'm a part of. So I might be a member of a political party, or a member of a church, or a member of a family, or a member of a club. I'll just say hiking. I'm not part of a hiking club, but maybe I'm an avid hiker and I'm a part of the hiking club. We're one of, hey, I'm a part of this group, and our group, you can only be a part of a group if there's another group that's not there. So believers need an unbeliever. If you are part of a group that you think is better, then there's got to be other groups that aren't as good. And so the ego only gets satisfaction if your group can be distinguished from another group. And so we define ourselves by our group, and this of course leads to all kinds of competition and bitterness and clashing of the different groups, as we've got to prove our group is the superior group and the other groups are the inferior groups. We're right, they're wrong. We're righteous, they're evil, and so on. And so we define ourselves by our groups that we are a part of. My addiction, a lot of times this itch of the ego leads to an addiction, because the ego says I need something more, and if it's more pleasure or more freedom, sometimes that's found through an addictive behavior. And then once it says, hey, there's where I'm going to satisfy my need for more, then we keep going back to the addictive behavior or substance for more. But it's like the elusive end of the rainbow. It's never actually the more that we think we're going to get. We think the next time is I'm finally going to be satisfied. And again, let's just say it's a car. The next car, I'm going to be satisfied. I was listening to an audio about a Hollywood celebrity, and if the story was accurate, he had 16 really nice motorcycles, and he found himself still looking through motorcycle magazines, looking for another motorcycle. There's a better one out there. These are nice, but somewhere there's a motorcycle that's finally going to satisfy this itch, just going to make me say, this was the motorcycle I've been looking for. And we do that with so many things in life, whether it's an addictive substance or behavior or a motorcycle or a relationship or a quest in nature. This time we're going to go hiking in this place. I don't know why I keep thinking of hiking. I love hiking, but it's not just about hikers. It's the quest for something more. And then when I get there, or when I have that, and if we get there and we have that, we might be satisfied for a window of time. There might be a celebration. Yes, I made it. I finally have it, whatever. Pretty soon the itch is back again. Okay, that's nice, but it's nice I got this motorcycle. But you know what? I think that one over there. This happens to me every time I go out to eat at dinner at a restaurant, and whatever I order, somebody else's food looks better. Like, dang, I should have ordered what they got. And the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And so just be aware of the influence of the ego need for more in your life. And spend some time in meditation or prayer or journaling or whatever activity works for you to slow things down and realize you're okay. You don't need more to be what you already are, a divine spiritual being. That's what you are. You could use more. I could just say money. I could use more money to pay a bill or something. But you want to let go of needing more to be okay with self. Needing more to be at peace. Needing more to finally relax and say, I'm okay. And spend some time connecting to the divine. I focus on Christ. I study about Christ. And whatever your belief system is, focus on the divine, focus on love, focus on the fact that you're already okay. And despite your flaws and your imperfections, at your core, you're good. You came from a divine source, so you must be divine. If I look at I've got an apple tree in my backyard, okay? What did the apple tree come from? It could only have come from another apple tree. I'm not speculating, I think that apple tree might have come from the blackberry bush over there. What are you talking about? No, apple trees come from apple trees. What else would they come from? Well, you came from a divine source. What else would you be but something of the divine. That's your divine heritage, your divine DNA, if you will. And we're in this earthly scenario where we all have flaws. We're all imperfect. And there's always room for improvement. I would never suggest to settle for mediocrity. But we grow not out of neediness to finally prove we're enough. We grow because there's joy in growth. It's fun to learn and grow and progress and experience and increase in our capacity to do good and to be better at whatever our profession or hobby or whatever it is we do. Yeah, become better at it because there's joy in the process, not because you need to finally reach that ego itch and finally be okay. No, you're already okay. But now stretch yourself and learn and grow and progress just because you can. A tree grows, okay, not to become a different kind of tree. You don't have a cedar tree that says, if I just grow enough, I'll finally be a redwood tree. Oh, you just grow because you can grow. And that is part of what our creative process is. And let go of the neediness of the ego and to be at peace with self and be at peace with others and extend a lot of grace and mercy to others and let go of condemning judgment to others and give people permission to learn and grow on their life journey. I hope this has been helpful for you. This is something that I continue to wrestle with, not near as much as I used to, but every once in a while I find a little face of the ego popping up saying, hey, you need more. It's like, stop it. And so find time to be quiet, to be still, to identify your thoughts, to separate yourself from your thoughts. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my body. I'm not my profession. I'm not my possessions. I'm not my reputation. I am part of the divine. God bless you.